Welcome back to another video. Today we're going to talk about how to actually structure your marketing team if you want to scale your e-commerce brand, because this is something that I see go wrong all the time and people don't have enough guidance around it and they're listening to the wrong people or they're doing it based on gut feeling. And yeah, I just thought it'd be a really good video to break down for you guys. And before we get started, I've put together the e-commerce reality check. It's in the description below. I think it's really important for anybody with an e-commerce brand, or if you're providing any services, to go through this. I think it'll really help you out, particularly if you're in that kind of 3 to 15, 20 million range. Check it out, download it, let me know what you think. So the biggest mistake I see with marketing teams right now is very simple. They're not output focused. And I don't care if it's internal, if it's an agency, or if it's a mix of both. Most teams are really busy, but they're not actually producing enough of the things that are actually driving their growth, especially on the creative, the new customer acquisition, and on the retention side. I think there are 3 areas that really need to be output focused. So if you're a brand doing between 1 and 10 million, the way you should think about your team is really simple. You don't need 10, 15, 20 people. You need clear ownership across just a few key areas. Most of you should know what these key areas are. I'm going to break them down. Number 1, somebody who owns the creative process. Sometimes it's the founder, sometimes it's a CMO, sometimes it's a social media person, sometimes it's an agency. Number 2, you need someone who owns new customer acquisition. This is not necessarily just paid advertising. This could also look like your organic strategy. This could also look like your affiliate strategy. This can also look like your TikTok shop strategy. Whatever your channels are for growth, you need somebody that just owns the process and is obsessed on a daily basis around how you guys are acquiring their new customers. Number 3, you can probably guess it. It's somebody who owns the retention process. So who is making sure that you guys as a business are extending your lifetime value as much as possible, that your customers are continuously coming back, that they're being hit across all of the channels that we think we're going to see them: email, SMS, loyalty programs. And then on top of that, you're going to need somebody who owns overall strategy. And a lot of the time that's going to be the founder, maybe a CMO, maybe it's an agency as well. Similar, like from our position, like I act as that person who sees overall strategy for the brands that we work with. And then within Lead and Social, they'll have somebody focused on those other areas. The structure alone, if done properly, can scale a brand to really like to 10 plus million. And where I see people going wrong is they blur the roles. So somebody is in control of like creative and retention, or strategy and retention, or strategy and new customer. I don't think that's a really good place to be. I think you need different people. There's only so many hours in the week. And I think once you get to a certain level, you need to be able to delegate and hand off those responsibilities to different people to really own them and trust them as well. As you start to scale, things get really interesting, because the saying goes, what got you here won't get you there. And what got you to 1 to 3 million is not going to get you from 5 to 10 million. And this is something people don't like hearing, but it's just true. And it's also something that I have to accept too. Like, you have to, like, I'm perfectly, obviously I'm an agency owner, I have my own business, I'm aware of this too. And it's something that I'm using as from an agency owner perspective, and also instilling it into the brands that we're working with. Businesses outgrow people sometimes. It happens all the time, especially if you're growing. Unless someone is really pushing themselves internally, it's very hard for them to keep up at the pace of a fast growing e-commerce brand. So what you need to do is accept that and lean into it. And that might mean, changing agencies. It might mean trying your best to upskill team members, and if they're not hitting those marks, having those difficult conversations, and also bringing in specialists, because at scale, generalists don't really cut it anymore, and you need people who are exceptional at very specific things. And I've learned this from working with founders across all areas of business, not just e-commerce, but founders in general that are doing 20, 30, 40 million plus. They every 2 years they're constantly upgrading their senior level team members and their leadership teams and everything. And they need to really set the pace for how this business is growing. And if everybody else isn't going at that same pace, it's okay for you to have those difficult conversations and bring in the people that do need to get you to where you need to go. Now, one thing that does not change, no matter what stage you're at, is the role of the founder. And these are the 2 things the founder should always own relentlessly. So first is your profit and loss, and if you're e-commerce, looking at your MER. Don't hand those 2 off to anybody. You should know on a daily or weekly basis where your business is at from a numbers perspective, Because at the end of the day, you're the one that's allocating the capital, and the buck stops with you. Nobody else is going to care about that as much as you do. No matter how much, well, I hope they don't. They shouldn't. No matter how much responsibility, no matter how long they've been in the business, at the end of the day, that's your responsibility to make sure that it's going in the direction that you set out from your game plan. Second is direction. That doesn't mean you need to be involved in everything, but you need to know what the business is trying to do. After that, you can lean into your strengths. So if you're strong and creative, stay close to it. If you're strong in product, focus there. And if you're more operational, stay high level and stay in the weeds there. But the numbers and the direction of the business should always sit with you. Now, on the hiring versus agency side, my view is pretty clear. I think the best setup is with you to set up a hybrid. I think that from an agency perspective, I know this, I run an agency, a lot of my friends run agencies. In order for us to grow our businesses and in order for us to stay competitive, we have to be on the cutting edge of technology, of algorithms, of platforms, of brands that are working and doing well, brands that we hear, through the grapevine aren't doing so well. We are the most educated in the space because we have to be to survive. Like it's our livelihood. Now, obviously the conversation is agencies obviously have other clients. If you're working with a team on an agency side, they likely have another handful of clients that they're also allocating their attention to. That's the model. So having somebody on the internal side, whether that's a CMO, whether that's a social media person, paid ads, whatever it might be on the inside, having the hybrid of somebody internal working with a strong leading agency, that's where I see the magic happening the most, because I've seen it play out so many times. We have our active clients, and I've worked with so many clients over the last kind of 10 years that it's just become very obvious. And I didn't realize, so I actually got this in my head a couple of years ago. Once a brand hits 15, maybe a little even less, maybe if they hit 10 million, they're just going to take it all in-house, because it makes more sense to have it in-house. You're all close together, you're working on a daily basis. But then I realized a lot of the brands that are doing 100 million plus, they're all working with agencies, because they understand that agencies have to know what's happening and what's working best in order to survive. We also have the benefit of being exposed to so many brands on a quarterly or yearly basis that we understand a lot more. We're running tests all the time, so we can take those learnings and apply them to the businesses across the board. That's my take. I think people always hate on agencies, and people they say what they want to say, but I think, and I wholeheartedly believe that's the best method. I do agree that it's probably not the best ideal setup to just have an agency unless the founder is working really closely with the agency. It's not a good idea to have the agency just running it, because I think they will miss out on those little small nuances of the brand. And they're not even just when things come up, such as like flash sales or certain discounts, new products, internal things in the business too. If they're disconnected from that, there can be a couple of hiccups, particularly if you're trusting them to run a lot of things, and that's just down to them not being exposed to it. That's actually not really even their fault. But yeah, that's the best setup that I've seen. So if I was to simplify this completely, your team needs clear ownership, high output, especially on the creative side, specialists as you scale, bring in consultants, bring in people that have done this before, bring in people from other brands, and try to build out that strong internal leadership team. If you don't have those things, it doesn't really matter how much you spend on ads, you're going to struggle to scale properly, and that's not an enjoyable process. So, my name's Leighton Penrose. I have an agency called Leading Social. Please do book in for a call below. It would be great to hear from you. And if not, download the e-commerce reality check. It's in the link in the description below. And please like and subscribe. I'll see you in the next one.